Mookie. And we back with another reaction video. Mookie, you know we love Brazilians.
Facts.
We love Brazilians in football, bro. I don't know. It's like, I look at Brazilians, y'all, like it's like the hood in basketball. Like,
from the slums.
Yeah, and they do all the, you know, we want to do all the ad ones, the nice moves, bro. But we got a new video by Raymond, y'all, the embarrassing decline of Brazilian football.
I didn't know Brazilian football was on a decline, bro.
Yeah, but so far, anything with your boy Raymond touch.
You know, they still got people like Vinny and Neymar.
Yeah, but Neymar,
he getting older.
Yeah,
definitely.
But in the league he in.
Yeah.
But we gonna get into that. Y'all let us know what y'all think about this video in the comment section. If y'all new to the channel, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Mookie, let's see what our boy Raymond got to say about this, bro.
For much of the 20th century, Brazil wasn't just a footballing nation. It was the heartbeat of the sport, the place where football transcended a mere competition and became art. The beautiful game is so intertwined with the country's identity that for many of us fans, and heck, even those who are the most casual viewers, will think of no other country more synonymously with football than Brazil. 5 World Cups, the most of any nation, proudly displaying on their trophy case as a testament to a dynasty that for many generations seemed untouchable, and an entire culture that crafted and inspired just about every generation with their iconic, unforgettable, and irreplaceable flair and approach. Even these simple, old commercials you're watching right now are a testament to the undeniably global dominance, influence, and admiration of a once mighty and feared footballing nation that for many undoubtedly brings a sense of nostalgia, going back to a once different time in football that you just had to be there to witness. Because for the younger generation, perhaps that Brazil will be nothing more than a legend or fairy tale, as their once iconic identity might never be replicated again. After all, as they say, every empire eventually faces its fall. But within the context of football, it's just hard to believe that we would have ever seen Brazilian football fall from their once untouchable heights. From their Jogo Bonito or beautiful game growing in obsolescence to modern tactics, loss of identity, seemingly fading talent, and a failure to evolve. From a team that every nation once dreaded to go up against.
Was that
Joel Embiid right
there.
there.
The game,
that was Joel Embiid, bro.
Modern tactics, loss of identity, seemingly fading talent, and
yeah, that's him, bro.
You be watching football, Joe?
Yeah, you know
a
he
failure to evolve. From a team that every nation once dreaded to go up against, to a team now that is only up a single point above countries like Bolivia, that with continued form might possibly not even qualify for the next World Cup. This is the decline of Brazilian football and how it's happening. In the early 1900s, football had already found its way to the shores of Brazil, but at first it wasn't a game for everyone. The sport in its early days was almost exclusively reserved for the Brazilian upper class, white or European descent Brazilians who could afford to play as unpaid amateurs. They would form their typical clubs, play in pristine and regulation quality pitches, and adhering to very formal positions and tactics. Very proper or even bourgeois, you could say, as after all, it was a game for the privileged. A very different image from football today. But outside those exclusive fields, there was another version of the game that was brewing. A more raw and untamed version that would soon defy the norms and standards. The alleys, streets, and empty lots where space was limited, often dirty, tight, or far from favorable. The poorer, working-class Brazilians who were more often than not of African.
Just like we said, in them slums, boy.
Yeah, them slums is like hills in Brazil. If you ever paid attention to like the landscape.
Yeah.
You know, and then the big Jesus statue they got there.
Right.
Yo, it's like hills. The houses is on hills. So when that ball is rolling down like that, yeah, that's the actual living arrangements.
Or indigenous descent began to play their own game. One with makeshift goals and improvised balls that was finding its roots with flair, control, and creativity. And it was there in the hearts of those street pickup games that the essence of Jogo Bonito would slowly start to take form, quietly but unmistakably setting the stage for a footballing revolution that would soon take the world by storm. And the evidence of that unique Brazilian style is all there in its history. That flashy, rhythmic dribbling of players mirrored the fluid steps of samba. a dance that holds its mark all throughout Brazilian culture.
Every month, this Airbnb pays me in semi-passive income. Now, here's the thing. I don't own...
Juggling bicycle kicks and using your head, shoulders, and back to control the ball is all echoed in the movements of capoeira, Brazil's dancing martial arts. Then in 1958, a player who was born from that slowly evolving football culture that was different from any other nation would slowly make his way from a poor neighborhood in Sao Paulo all the way to the global stage. And his name was Pele, almost as if he was the embodiment of the Brazilian football spirit. At just 17 years old, he, along with other Brazilian legends like Garrincha and Vava, would completely overwhelm their opponents, shocking the world with creativity and style that many were only witnessing for the very first time. While other teams were, as you could describe, as more organized, playing in fixed positions with rigid and stagnant formations, Brazil would completely overwhelm them with flair and creativity. They were just so ahead of their time that they almost seemed invincible. Their golden era of over a decade in the national team led by Pele was truly mighty, winning 3 out of 4 World Cups, made up of homegrown players that played for their local clubs and all represented the Brazilian league. Sure, many might look back at the time and think that it wasn't as impressive because they played against poor competition or quote-unquote farmers, as some might even call it. And I gotta admit, I once had that opinion as well. But the fact of the matter is that for their time, they were just so much better than everyone else.
So when y'all say that they used to, I mean, I get what they saying, but why do they say that they, like Pele or Brazil used to play against farmers? That's basically saying y'all used to play against dudes that's...
Yeah, it's not so good.
Yeah, you feel me? Try to go at them for real. Like, why y'all downgrading that? And for y'all in the comments, y'all let us know, did they really used to play against people like that? You feel me?
They had to, you know, have some powerhouses in Europe and Spain and those type of places, you know what I'm saying? So
But how you know that?
that they played against them.
Yeah. So y'all let us know, bro.
That's tough.
Yeah.
And their dominance of that era solidified Brazil to many as the footballing nation. They would inspire generations of other players worldwide to change their game, improve their dribbling, and even slowly start trying new skills. And naturally, in Brazil, football would become their pride. Every child wanted to one day represent Brazil and continue that legendary identity that Pele's generation had established. By the 1980s, Brazil's footballing legacy was already carved in stone. But the era of Zico, better known as the White Pele, captured yet another chapter of brilliance. Led by Socrates, Maestro Jr., Eder, and of course, Zico himself. Though they might not have claimed as many titles as their predecessors, this generation pushed Brazil's football identity further, playing what was seen as then the most beautiful football in the world. They played with that same unmistakable flair, but introduced a more refined playmaking genius and tactical structure that cemented their status as legends. And even though the trophies did elude them, Brazil remained a force, feared and respected, consistently making deep runs in the World Cup. And in 1989, they even...
So Brazil been good for a very long time.
Very long time.
Yeah, Brazil been good for a while.
managed to do what Pele's generation never could, finally lift the Copa America, the prize that had slipped through Brazil's grasp for decades. But it wouldn't be long until another generation came and would once more strike absolute terror upon the footballing world. By the 1990s, Brazil found itself on the cusp of a new era that would break their World Cup drought. In 1994, Brazil roared back to the pinnacle of football, led by the electrifying Romario. His goal-scoring dominance and talent reignited the nation's hopes. But although Romario himself believed that that Brazilian side wasn't nearly as stacked as the legendary teams before him, he said what they lacked in overall talent and solid tactics, they made up for with team unity and an unstoppable attack. Together with Bebeto, Romario would form a partnership that overwhelmed opponent defenses, leading Brazil to the final where they would triumph over a Roberto Baggio-led Italy, going on to lift their nation's fourth World Cup. That victory signaled not just a return to dominance, but the arrival of yet another generational talent that only made them even better, Ronaldo. Soon, he became known as the Phenomenon, leading Brazil as the top scorer of the 1997 Copa America, along with winning the prestigious Ballon d'Or. Brazil would once more lift the Copa America trophy and also claimed the Confederations Cup the very same year, With a squad filled with names like Rivaldo, Cafu, Roberto Carlos, and many more, Brazil had become a force that no team on earth wanted to play. But surprisingly, in the 1998 World Cup, where they were the overwhelming favorites, it would be France that came out on top as the underdogs and lift the World Cup in their own soil. But not
Senior boy. Was that him though? Zidane.
surprisingly, in the 1998 World Cup, where they were the overwhelming favorites, it would be France that came out on
I think that is him with that moon roof right there.
top as the underdogs and lift the
You said the what?
The moon roof, you feel what I'm saying?
Trying to say my man don't got no hair on the top of his head.
That's why I had to cut it all off, right?
World Cup in their own soil. But not for a single moment did anyone think that Brazil were going away. Because despite the World Cup final loss, they would quickly recover and continue their dominance. Just ask Argentina, as they witnessed an absolute show of Jogo Bonito, with the brilliance of Ronaldinho, Rivaldo, and of course Ronaldo, absolutely toying with their bitter neighborly rivals, while handing out the most casual 4-1 defeat you could ever see. Brazil's famous 3 Rs would help them bounce back from that 1998 World Cup defeat, as they would demolish the entire South American continent and win the 1999 Copa America. That's why in the 2002 World Cup, it came as no surprise that this time Brazil wasn't settling for anything less than the World Cup trophy. And this squad that had remained relatively the same as the last World Cup, captained by Cafu and immortalized with Ronaldo's infamous haircut, would go on to effortlessly beat everyone in their way as Brazil would lift its 5th World Cup. Imagine if they had just won that 1998 final against Zidane. That would have been an insane 3 consecutive World Cup trophies, making them not only the most successful national side of all time, but also the only to ever accomplish such a
What you say, yo?
That's where I need to be. Slide over, girl. Let me get up in there.
Yo, it's crazy.
feat. It would have been unquestionable that they would have been known as the greatest generational dynasty in football history. And I'm sure for many Brazilian fans, far surpassing that of their predecessors. Because World Cup aside, Brazil would continue to completely dominate Copa America for the next several years. Like in the 2004 Copa America, when it seemed like Argentina was about to steal the show, with Brazil trailing 2-1 and Argentine fans chanting loudly. Heck, even Carlos Tevez dared to taunt the team. Argentina was so close to victory, but in the dying moments, Adriano struck a thunderous equalizer, silencing the Argentine fans and sending the match into penalties, where Brazil would ultimately come out on top. A year later, in the 2005 Confederations Cup, this time led by Ronaldinho, the Seleção would deliver another masterclass, dominating Argentina once more 4-1 in the final. And for such a rivalry between these two nations, those continued wins over Argentina were more than just victories. For the players and the people, they were a statement. So with a squad brimming with legends, this Brazil team swaggered into the 2006 World Cup. Ronaldo, Ronaldinho in his prime, and Kaká in his prime. They were seen as once more the overwhelming favorites. But likewise, once more, Zidane was there as Brazil's kryptonite, giving arguably the best performance of his French international career to put on an absolute show and hand defeat to this world.
Saying you a lot in this video, Zidane, yo. Shut them down, huh, sure.
Beating Brazilian squad. But again, despite a World Cup loss and aging legends, Brazil would still come back as strong as ever. Because even as their 4 Ballon d'Or winners would slowly pass the baton to the next generation, Brazil was brewing up what seemed like another monstrous generation to follow in their footsteps. Adriano, who was supposed to be Ronaldo's successor, and other emerging talents like Robinho, who many were calling the next Pele, and even Dani Alves, was already quickly becoming known as the fullback replacement for Cafu. They would dominate over Argentina once more, winning 3-1 in the Copa America final to redeem their World Cup shortcomings and defend their trophy. But that early 2000s generation, as we know now, would suddenly implode for various reasons and never lived up to their potential. It's around this time, closer to 2010, that Brazil's identity was slowly changing for the worse. It wouldn't be until a few years later that Brazil could once more proudly claim another generational talent of whom to put their hopes and dreams of reviving the country's prestigious identity. And as we all know, his name was Neymar. Although Brazil had a generational talent to once more try and lead them to a different era of glory, there was already a lot of damage slowly being done to the Seleção. Nobody could have really guessed it yet. But in 2014, Brazil would enter the World Cup hosted in no other than their own soil, only to experience one of the most infamous moments in footballing history. Because in the heat of the World Cup semifinals, Oscar would valiantly break through the German defense, weaving and dazzling, scoring a goal for Brazil and shocking the world, as they would embarrassingly lose 7-1 to Germany. From then on, a new crisis would take hold of the Brazilian national team. In the 2015 Copa America, there were more controversies. Neymar lost his temper during a match against a yellow card and getting a 2-match suspension. Afterwards, Brazil would be eliminated by Paraguay in penalties. Then the Centenario edition of the Copa America marked another bitter chapter for Brazil. A controversial handball goal saw Peru knocking them out of the quarterfinals with a 1-0 defeat. This would lead to the departure of longtime manager Dunga. In the 2018 World Cup, on paper, Brazil looked like one of the favorites. But all was not well beneath the surface. Neymar was just returning from injury, and it showed. They would struggle during the group stages, and even though they did push through, they would eventually come across Belgium's golden generation. Brazil would quickly find themselves down 2-0 in the first half, which ultimately they could never recover from, and were once more sent home early. For many, it seemed like Brazil's identity had slowly shifted. No more was there any Joga Bonito to be seen. Instead, the squad slowly became more of a media spectacle than footballing brilliance, as many of these modern stars would care more about celebrity status, which was a far cry from the previous generation.
Talk to me, Mookie, talk to me, baby.
Come on, man. You can't lose sight of the team, bro.
Right.
You only famous because you can play football. You understand? So, these dudes, and I see that a lot, yo.
That's just a generation in general, bro.
I see that's a lot. Yo, you got football, basketball players that want to be rappers now. It's like they want to live that type of lifestyle. You feel what I'm saying? Celebrities come out the house, Louis Vuitton sweatsuits and Gucci slippers. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't understand. Instead of being on the pitch, getting better every day, day after day. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's just the decline of the sports we love, and that's
all around.
World,
yeah, that's all
over
around
the world, bro.
Yeah.
It sucks.
They would surprisingly win the 2019 Copa America without Neymar, but to many that victory didn't really look all that convincing. 0-0 with Venezuela and 0-0 with Paraguay. The team had barely made it out, and through the years it seemed like those criticisms did have some merit. As in the 2021 Copa America, Brazil would fight tooth and nail to make it all the way to the final, only to suffer a crushing defeat at home to no other than their fiercest rivals, Argentina. After so many generations of Brazilian dominance, Messi would lift his first international title in no less than Brazilian soil. Truly a painful symbol to Brazil.
You simply unzip it, it comes wide open, and you get zipper see-through pouches so you
fading dominance. However, in the 2022 World Cup, it seemed like there was a glimmer of hope. As of recent, Brazil were in insane form. In 17 matches, they would have 14 wins and 3 draws, not a single loss leading up to the tournament. A more mature Neymar was once back to lead his country. And alongside him, there were a lot of promising talent like Vini Jr. and Rodrigo. Everyone was in good form. Richarlison, Paqueta, Rafinha, heck, even Antony. And they would, with a little difficulty, make it to the quarterfinal. Now against Croatia, as the final minutes of the game were coming to an end, Neymar would step up in a moment of brilliance, scoring one of the best goals in the tournament, lighting roars throughout the stadium. However, with only mere minutes left, Croatia would equalize in devastating fashion. A complete breakdown and disorganization of the Brazilian defense. And of course, in the penalty shootout, Brazil would falter. That recent form that they had been in looked almost non-existent, as they would do horribly, with their best player Neymar not even getting the chance to take his shot. This was perhaps the best opportunity Brazil had in years to reclaim their former glory. And for all the criticism he gets, Neymar played his absolute heart out, but when it mattered most, his inexperienced team would let him down, and watching him in tears was one of the most heartbreaking moments of the tournament. Following the heartbreaking loss was another change in team management, and this was really the beginning of a turbulent chapter for not only the Brazilian team, but for the entirety of the Brazilian Footballing Federation. Corruption scandals, accusations of harassments, and waves of internal chaos began to tarnish the image of the once proud federation. Now we would see Brazil faltering even in friendlies, suffering unexpected losses to countries like Morocco and Senegal. And things would go bad to worse, as 3 consecutive defeats in World Cup qualifying only further deepened the crisis. Dorival Jr.'s appointment brought a brief flicker of hope, but even that would quickly fade away. As Copa America came around, the issues would only further appear. In 4 matches, they would have 1 win and 2 draws, with a crushing quarterfinal defeat to Uruguay. Now sitting precariously in 5th place in the qualifiers, just a single point away from the unthinkable, possibly the biggest World Cup qualifying shock of the 21st century. Brazilian football, once defined by its fluid, attacking style, has now become more rigid in recent years. In my opinion, the current generation really had an over-reliance on Neymar, as almost always, whenever he's absent, the squad just seems to lack that dynamic spark of past generations. Sure, Vini Jr. and Rodrigo are easily their best talents, but even then, Brazil lacks the midfield quality that they're used to at Madrid. And as we've seen, it's really hard for them to operate without having an ideal piece in the middle to help them flourish. The Samba playstyle has really been diluted, as Neymar is really the last player to show this trait. Brazil right now lacks anyone who can really operate by themselves, no matter the quality of players that surround him. And with more Brazilian players leaving Brazil and heading to European academies and European clubs at an earlier age, it seems like the Brazilian flair is slowly dying. Heck, it's hard to find someone in the Brazilian national team that even plays for a club in Brazil. And historically, but much more now, Brazil has really slowly been failing to replenish any world-class defenders. And it doesn't help that the Brazilian leagues have never really pushed a defensive playstyle, so it's already hard to find new defensive talent from their own home soil. And when you add the fact that Brazil really has never produced any world-class coaches, because when was the last time you saw a Brazilian manager that was really in charge of a major club in a major league? And since Carlo Ancelotti has decided to stay with Real Madrid longer and abandon his plans for becoming Brazil's manager, well, it looks like from that aspect they're gonna continue to struggle. And even off the field, and from what it seems like to me and for many, Brazil's players just really lack cohesion and chemistry. But it really does make sense, as although they're Brazilian, many of them have already left Brazil from such a young age, often having different upbringings in different countries with different cultures. You have Brazilian talents developing in Spain, Germany, Italy, France, and England, all of whom have never really had the chance to develop with each other in their own home soil. And while other nations have been quick to embrace more modern tactical innovations, Brazil has been slower to adapt, consistently relying on a style that has been slowly fading away. 2015-16 Premier League season, there was an unknown English teenager for much of the 20th.
What you think, yo?
Well, there's a few things I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about, like, how the players back then to build Brazil to be a powerhouse like they used to. I think those players had more passion for the game that these newer players just don't have. It seemed like a lot of people care about, clout and stuff like that rather than actually being the best, football team in the world. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because Brazil, they have the talent. You feel what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They just gotta, make the effort. And as I was listening, they really don't have no defense in Brazil. So it's all silky, smooth offense. But good offense and no defense, you ain't winning nothing.
Yeah, man. And it's not like how Raymar said, bro. The only person that really can save Brazil is Neymar.
Right.
And he always injured, and there's not too many.
But Neymar ain't gonna be around for that much longer either. Bro.
And hear me out real quick. They said Raymar said like Neymar, he see the old players in Neymar. It's not too many players Brazil got like that. Like Brazil had like a power 3 or a power 4 back then. You feel me? They always had a crazy star. Neymar is a star. But the videos that man Mookie been reacting to lately of Neymar, it seemed like his focus is somewhere else.
Somewhere else.
You feel me? It don't seem like he as passionate how these Brazilians was.
Confused, bro.
And how you said, bro, the chemistry is not there how they was, bro.
It's crazy.
Yeah, man. Great video, man. Y'all let us know if this information true, though, because I know people that's get different information from everywhere else say different things, but hopefully that's not true because Brazilian, I don't know, they always stuck out to us. Like, they always like, yo,
Stick
Brazilian.
out like that
Yeah,
club right
yeah.
there, boy.
For real, they nice, man.
Yeah.
If y'all new to the channel, fam, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe.
Yes, sir.
We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. I'm Nick Dawson.
No Mookie Dawson.
And we out, baby. One.